Story time, the time my boss set me up on a date. Catchy, right? It's the truth, but it's catchy. So I've been wanting to do story times for a while now, but I was like, I don't know if I want to talk about my personal life online, like more than I already do. But it's Valentine's Day, this is matching the theme. I think this is good. I've been wanting to do story times for a while. So I'm going to talk about the time that my boss set me up on a date. It all started when I'm just going to get into it. I don't know how people do this. I'm just going to get into it. It all started when I got a new job. This was a while back, years ago. I got a new job, and I didn't really know my coworkers very well for the first few months I was there. I'm not the type of person who just gives away my personal information. Like, I have my work life and my personal life. But eventually, we kind of started to be more friends. I was like, okay, this is my place, you know, I belong here. I'm not just the new girl anymore. And they asked me about like, oh, are you dating? And I was like, no. And they were like, do you want to be? I was like, I don't know. And they pretty much all just volunteered to set me up with people. Like, they were like, we'll find somebody for you. And I was like, sure, if you can find somebody who matches my standards, go for it. Anyway, there was like 2 months of radio silence. Occasionally they'd ask and be like, hey, what's your type? Give me an example of your type. And I'd just go, I don't know. And then I specifically said, not country boys, okay? Boots and works on a farm and it's just not my type. Not my type at all. Okay? Keep that in mind for where we're going next. They asked me about my type again, and I showed them, like, I think his name is Damiano David from Måneskin. I was just like, this. He looks nice, and he seems like he's nice to his girlfriend. Fiance. They're engaged now. So I was like, that guy, he looks nice. A little while later, my boss comes up to me. By the way, my boss was part of this conversation. She very much was like, can I set you up? And I was like, yeah, sure. Okay, so it wasn't like a, oh no, I'm pressured into like dating somebody that she knows. I specifically also said no coworkers, because a few times they approached me and was like, what about that guy? And I'm like, no, we work together. And if we break up, that would be really awkward. She goes, he makes a lot of money. Okay, he works a blue-collar job, and I know that he's a good guy. And I was like, okay, all right. And then she just keeps kind of talking me into it. She's like, he's just a couple years older than you. I was like, okay, that's fine. I don't want to date anybody like too much older than me, unless they're rich. And younger than me is like a year max. Maybe 2. I don't, it's especially since I'm 22, so, like, I don't want to date a teenager for sure. So a 19-year-old, 18-year-old, off the table. 20-year-old is like, I don't know. 21, I'm still like, okay, maybe. 22 to like 28, I'm good. Unless they're rich. So she was like, he's a little older than you, but only by a couple years or something. I don't remember how much older he was than me. So I was like, okay. She didn't give me his like phone number or anything. I was like, okay, sure. Sure. A few days later, apparently he was in my work, but I didn't see him. He just was in the work where I was. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, my boss came up and told me that he was in here earlier, and I was like, okay, I didn't see him, he didn't talk to me, so okay, whatever. She sends me his picture, like, one night when I go home that week, she sends me his picture, and I go, oh my god, that is a country boy. He has this mustache and goatee, and I can't get over it. I can't stand that. Cannot stand that. So I tell her, I message her, and I was like, yeah, he's not really my type. And she was like, well, that's okay, just give him a shot. And I was like, okay, I'm not getting out of this. I'm gonna have to go on a date with this guy. I did go back and forth with her. I think I went back and forth with her and was like, yeah, but he looks like a country boy. And she was like, oh, he's not. Oh, right, the reason I was like, no, was, okay, saw the goatee, the whatever, I was like, oh, he's a country boy. He was holding a fish. I don't need I don't need to say anything else. He was holding a fish, and I was like, no. But I was like, okay, I feel like I'm not getting out of this. I'm just gonna go on a date with him and get it over with. I was like, okay, sure. Still didn't get his number. He came back into my work a few days later and just kind of, he was talking to somebody else in the store. Never came over to say hi to me. But while he was in the store talking to somebody else, just like a little bit away, my boss comes up to me. I almost said her name. My boss comes up to me and is like, get out of the corner so he can see you. And I was like, no, I'm doing my job. I'm at work. I'm not gonna like, if he's not coming up here, I'm not just gonna be standing there. No. Stayed in my corner, I did my job. A few days later, he comes, I get off at, I think I got off at 7 at that time. So I went home at like 6:55 because you can go home a little early. You know, it doesn't affect anything. So I went home a little early. I get a message while I'm in the parking lot from 2 of my coworkers. And they're like, oh my god, he's here. He's asking about you. Did you leave yet? And I was like, yep, I'm in the car in the parking lot. Not coming back in. And then they were like, we'll just get his number for you. And I was like, no, give him my number. I hate messaging people first. I don't know why. I'm not the initiative type of person. But I was like, okay. Sure. So I give them my number to give to him. So he has my number. He doesn't message me for a little bit. But then when he finally does, it's very like vague stuff. I don't think I blocked him or anything. So let me see if I can just pull it up. Can you search your messages? Ooh, okay. Take a step back. Before I get the number, okay? I notice who he's talking to. Alright? My boss's boss is who he's talking to. I don't think much of it because I'm like, okay, my boss is pretty good friends with her boss, so they all know each other. Cool. Then, one of my coworkers comes up to me and goes, you know who that is, right? And I go, huh? Because apparently my boss showed the coworker a picture of the guy. And she was like, it's our boss's brother. And I went, oh no, this can get so messy. This was a setup. This wasn't just a setup, it was a setup. It could get so messy if we started dating and then like a year later we broke up. You know how bad that would be for me? So I was like, oh no. No. So I'm already like, I have to get out of this. But he messages me, alright? I don't think it's the same day. Maybe the next day. Hey, this is his name. I go, hey, it's my name. He goes, how are you? I'm like, I'm good. He's like, oh, I'm doing good too. I just missed you when I came in earlier, lol. I said, a couple minutes after I left, I got a text asking if I was still there. Yeah, they said they were gonna text you. So what kind of things do you like to do? And I was like, okay, I like playing video games. About you. He goes on about his. Fish and golf. Could have guessed that. Could have guessed that based on the picture. And I was like, very different hobbies, lol. Trying to get out of it before we actually have to go on a date. And he goes, that's not a bad thing though. I like to play video games too. I was like, oh, cool. And he was like, what's your favorite games to play? I was like, oh, I like all the games I've played on here. I was like, Baldur's Gate 3 or Skyrim right now. And he was like, oh, I think my favorite's Red Dead Redemption 2. I was like, oh, cool. I haven't got around to playing it. I don't know if you guys need all this information, but it's going to be, you're going to understand why I'm saying all this, okay? It's pretty good, but it's definitely a long game. I was like, yeah, most games, good games are. He goes, where are you from? I say where I'm from originally and then where I live now. Oh, cool. That's where my brother is from. By the way, my boss never told me they were related. So then I just go, And then I go, not too far from where I work, huh? When did you graduate? 21. He graduated in 18, so 3 years. He was 3 years older than me. It took him 2 days, okay? I went to work the next day, and my boss goes, hey, I heard that, you stopped texting him. And I go, no, the conversation wasn't going anywhere. Because it wasn't, alright? So we said all that, and he ended with, what year did you graduate? I said 21. You? He said 2018. I didn't say anything back because first off, I'm not interested. But two, he didn't say anything. Like, I thought that was the end of the conversation. We had been texting for way too long. And then I go into work the next day and she says, I heard you stop texting him. I was like, no, it was the end of the conversation. Apparently he told her that I stopped texting him. I'm already like, okay, red flag. By the way, I'm saying like I want to get out of this, whatever. I also agreed that I would give it a shot and had convinced myself that like, hey, maybe this is the love of your life. You gotta go on at least one date to figure it out. But when he was like that, I was like, okay, red flag. I didn't do anything, and you definitely shouldn't be reporting to my boss about it, alright? So then, she was like, okay, well, has he messaged you anything else? I was like, no, not yet. She was like, okay, I'll talk to him. Next day after that, I don't think I talked to her about it. I think I'm talking to my coworker about it. My one guy coworker I'm talking to about it. And he's like, why don't you just ask him out? I was like, true. I was like, got it, I'll do that. I don't know where though. And then he suggests this really good place that apparently he's taken it to his family to. It was like a waffle place, but it has all different kinds of waffles. It was very good. That night I go home, I message him, I'm like, hey, if you're interested, you want to meet up sometime to get to know each other better? He was like, yeah, of course. When would work for you? And I was like, oh, how about this place at this Thursday? And then he said, yeah, sure, what time? I said 11:30. Said, that sounds good to me. Awesome, great. I go to work the next day. I tell my boss, I'm like, we're going out. Awesome. And then I tell her that, I asked him out, not the other way around, even though, he was so excited to go on a date with me, apparently. And then she tells me he called off work because I picked a time that he was working and he called off so he could go on the date with me. And I went, okay, that's kind of sweet. A little bit crazy, but kind of sweet. Kind of sweet. So this is a week before the date. It's this Thursday, right? Did you have work today? I was like, no. Did you? He's like, yeah. Apparently he worked like a 12-hour shift or something. Blah, blah, blah. And he messaged me a couple days later. It was like, how's your day? And a couple days later, how are you? We talked a lot before we ever went on a date. And he was like, are you still good for tomorrow? I was like, yeah, 11:30. And then once I got there, okay, I was really nervous. I recorded a different video on this, actually, of me getting ready for the date. But I was really nervous. I picked out, like, 3 different outfits. And it's in town, so you have to park, like, on the side of the road. And I'm not great at parallel parking. But I managed it. He messaged me and was like, hey, I'm here. I was like, me too. Have you went in yet? I was like, I'm walking over now. This is when I meet him. He's nice. He's a nice guy. We're like, hey. Go inside. We're really awkward, the both of us. And we get up to the counter and the lady who works there, she's just like, you can take a seat anywhere, let me know what you want, and I'll bring it out to you. So I ordered the s'mores. I think he orders apple pie, I want to say. I don't really remember. I think that's what he ordered. But the s'mores were huge. So we sit down, we start talking. And he wants everything different to me. So I have to subtly put this into the conversation because what he wants to talk about is like his job and his family. And I'm like, okay. He also mentioned his brother's name and that like he knew my boss and that his brother was my boss. And I was like, oh, so you knew everything and they didn't even tell me. By the way, didn't tell me for a long time. At one point,
redacted.
Okay, we gotta cut that out. At one point, my boss mentioned something, and one of my other coworkers said, hey, doesn't he look like our boss, his boss? And I was like, yeah, isn't that interesting, boss? Isn't that interesting that they look alike? And she got it then, and I was like, yeah, they do. They look so much alike, too. We were talking, and he was like, oh, this is my job. And then I was like, okay, I gotta figure something out now. Do you want to do that forever? And he was like, yeah, I could see myself working at this company forever. I was like, and you own a house here. And he was like, It's like, so you plan to live here forever, like probably work your way up at your job, but here forever. And he was like, yeah, I see myself living here forever. I was like, okay. And then he started talking about like his nieces, I think, or nephews, I can't remember. And I was like, oh, cool, cool, cool. And then he was like, oh, I could never have kids right now. I was like, oh yeah, no, me either. And then he was like, eventually. And I was like, oh, uh-huh. Eventually. I don't want kids. I don't ever want kids. Ever. So basically, he just kept saying stuff, and I'd be like, okay, here's a question. And then I was like, do you think you could ever get into like gaming, like for fun, so we could do something together? And he was like, no, I don't think it's really my thing. I'm more into like software stuff. And I was like, okay. Okay. He's like, but you could go golfing with me. And I was like, no, I don't want to golf. It was just very much looking at like, we didn't have anything in common. His future was very different to mine. I don't want to stay here forever. Where I live, I don't even want to be here now. I want to move to a different country. At least I want to move at least into a city. I live in like the countryside. Is countryside the right word? We just say the country. It's just like a rural area. But he wants to live here forever. He wants kids. He wants to stay at his job. Which is great for him, but it's not for me. We are sitting there and I hear the waitress walk by and tell another like group of customers that they're closing in like 30 minutes. So I stop him and I'm like, hey, they're closing soon. Maybe we should just like go. And he was like, oh yeah. I can tell that he was having such a good time and he did not pick up the same vibes as me and I felt so bad. So we're walking out. There's some stairs. We walk down the stairs and he's going this way. I'm going this way. So different directions. I was like, oh, I had fun. He's like, oh yeah, me too. And I go to my car and he messages me, I should have walked you to your car. I'm sorry, I'm dumb, lol. And I said, it's all good, lol. He said, thank you for going out with me though. I had a good time. I didn't answer him. Because I was like, I can't say I had a good time and like lead him on. But I also don't know what to say. And I'm like driving at this point. So I'm like, I'll just wait till I get home. I get home and I get in call with my friend. My friend who I use most of the time when I need to draft messages with a serious tone. And I don't want to come across as like rude. I'm a really bad texter and I'm a really bad emailer. So I will either draft something and then like be like, hey, does this sound okay? Or like, I'll just be like, hey, help me draft this. And basically she was like, okay, well, what do you want to say? And then we came up with something. I said, I had a good time too, but I don't think we had enough in common and we might see our futures a bit too different to take things further. I did really enjoy your company though. Okay? It took him like a couple minutes to respond. I was still in call with my friend when I sent it and he messaged before I got off call with my friend. He said, that's okay, thanks for letting me know. And that made me feel even worse because I was like, oh, you're so nice. But that's what happened. I was like, okay. Man, if only we had anything in common. Because he did seem like a nice guy. But we just... very different futures. I will not ever settle for less than what I want. Maybe in the future, but not right now. Right now, I want to adventure. I want to travel. I want to find a place that I want to call home. And this is not it. So that's how the date went. I go to work and everyone's asking me about it. They're like, oh, how did it go? How was the place you went to? And basically I have this reputation at work for being kind of formal and approaching a lot of situations very businesslike. I'm gonna exit out of this. I'm gonna accidentally call him or something. That'd be really awkward. When I got there, they were like, oh, how did it go? And I was like, good, it went really well, but there's not gonna be a second date. Also, I had to message my boss that because I was like, because she said to give her an update whenever it happened, so I messaged my boss and I was like, hey, so it went really well, but there's not gonna be a second date. And she was like, oh man, I thought you guys would really hit it off. I was like, yeah, you don't know me then. And it's true, like I said, I keep my personal life very personal a lot of the times. And the guy who who specifically like recommended the restaurant was like, okay, how's the restaurant? I was like, it's really good. It was really good. I want to go back, but also, it was so much. Not the price was fine, but the actual food was so much. But it was so good. God, it was so good. It was just straight cinnamon. s'mores, like marshmallows and chocolate and granola on top of like a fluffy waffle. It was so good. And then he was like, so did you guys have awkward silence for like half an hour? I was like, no, the date actually lasted 2 hours. By the way, the date lasted 2 hours. We just kind of talked the entire time. But like I said, we just didn't have enough in common for me to be like, yeah. But that's what I told him. I was like, no, we had 2 hours and I was the conversation starter. I was doing most of the talking, by the way. I made it very not awkward, which is rare for me, okay? It's rare for me. But he was like, okay, well, how did you end? It was like a formal, did you just tell him, well, good day, sir, but it's just not gonna happen, basically. And I was like, no. And then I read him the message. He was like, okay, so you did kind of give him a formal response. And yeah, I did, a little bit. But also, no need to lead him on. And nothing else came of it. I've not been set up by any of my other coworkers or my boss ever again. My boss's boss, very chill. I thought he would be, like, of course I was a little bit worried, but he's very chill. He didn't care. Also, it was just a date. It's not like we were together or anything, so it wasn't a breakup or anything. So it was fine. It was all chill. My boss didn't care. My boss's boss didn't care. It didn't matter. But that was the time I was set up on a date by my boss. And none of my coworkers ever set me up again. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. I feel like this was very on theme with Valentine's Day. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me if you want my story times. I'm not very good at them yet, but this is also my first story time, so I'll get better. Promise. See you guys next time. Like, comment, subscribe. Put in the comments what else you want, or any questions you have. Go for it. Okay, bye.